Thank you, Chair. I'm from WEDO, the Women's Environment and Development Organization, and very much appreciate the opportunity to intervene. Like my colleague before me, I want to recognize that today is May Day, Labor Day, and we recognize the powerful role of workers in advocating for economic justice through the transfer of power and resources from companies to workers, so relevant topic for our discussions today. And we also have workers and unions to thank for the framing of a just transition, a feminist just transition, which for us encompasses objectives across economic justice, climate justice, and gender justice. And it involves thinking through not just jobs or labor force participation, but also what kinds of economies we're transitioning away from and transitioning to. So it's really important that we're not just tinkering around the edges of the current system, but really upending the neoliberal, colonial, extractivist, and patriarchal economies that prey upon the labor of the working classes, especially women, girls, and gender diverse people. And at the same time, this has implications, of course, for the climate crisis, because we know that fossil fuel capitalism fueled by extraction has also directly created this crisis, exploiting and abusing both labor and nature, the environment, while thwarting attempts to achieve equity and justice in international and national contexts. So like others before me, it's really important, I emphasize the role of the UN in providing the governance models that can redress and transform the situation, recentering multilateralism and the role of the state. And tax is probably the most powerful instrument that we have to enact not just economic justice, but also environmental and gender justice. I'll share just two quick examples. One, the idea of taxing the windfall profits of fossil fuels. Research by ActionAid and Oxfam found that $237 billion per year in recent years was made in windfall profits of only 45 energy firms. So we're not just talking regular profits. Windfall profits mean in excess of 10% of the previous 4 years. So even if we only tax them a little, we're still talking about exorbitant amounts of money that can be used and can make a real difference for climate action, for gender equality, for the SDGs. And then the second example I'll share is the idea from a colleague from Eurodad of the excessive ecological footprint taxation, since we know that the overconsumption of elites, private jets, yachts, et cetera, has both inequality implications and then climate as well. And if we were to have a progressive tax on extreme wealth, we could generate, more hundreds of billions of dollars per year. So really challenging the narrative that there's not enough money out there to fund this, and that's why it's really important, as we discussed over the past couple days, that taxation of high net worth individuals is within the remit of the convention, and that it's rooted in well-established and agreed principles from across the UN's normative framework. So for us, that means combining the polluter pays principle with the framework of progressive taxation, which together can be a powerful way of looking at and way of enabling national sovereignty and resources for climate action and gender equality, in line with a decolonial and feminist structural transformation of the global economic and financial order. So we need commitments to this effect. We really appreciate the opportunity for discussion and determining, what should be on the table, but what we really want to see this committee enact are commitments. And it's possible to tackle all of these inequalities at once. The reason, as my colleague Dereje said, the reason so many of us from civil society are here is because we really see this convention as potentially starting to shift the international economic and financial order, to recenter the UN as the only democratic multilateral arena we have, as we heard so eloquently earlier today from Nigeria on behalf of the African group. So we see this work as potentially making the world more equitable for women, girls, and gender diverse people, for indigenous communities, for the global majority, and for all of us. So just emphasizing how important we see this task.